Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas. And today I have with me Marty Frappolli. You do go by Marty, right? I didn't actually ask.
Marty, yes. My name is Martin. Everybody calls me Marty.
Perfect. Marty Frappolli, who I've known for a good 10 years because he was a staple at CPCU events for a very long time since. So Marty, it's really cool for me to have you on. I'm really happy to have you here. 18 years at the institutes, right?
Correct. Yes.
So tell us a little bit of what you did at the institutes.
Sure. And I'll start with the annual meeting and the Leadership Summit, which I know you were a fixture at both. And out of all the things I did at the institutes, those were consistently among my favorite things to do, just because of the opportunity to meet the people who were truly passionate about the program. And of course, you've been to several annual meetings, so you see the people who have graduated and the excitement that they have for the, number one, to have it behind them, and then of course the next chapter ahead. And I often thought that the Leadership Summit was even more special to me because it was really the true believers who come to that, what used to be called the mid-year meeting. You're not there unless you believe and you're engaged. It's not a party your company paid for you to go to. You're there to work with colleagues and people who have similar business needs and skills, and you're really building a network. So that was really one of my favorite parts. But to your larger question, at the institutes, I was in the curriculum department when I was hired, and that sort of gravitated, and my group of peers became the knowledge resources department. And we were effectively the ones that would shape what the content would be. So if you were taking CPCU, ARM, AIC, no matter what content you were taking at the institutes, it was under our purview. And we would work with a team of really talented writers and another team of really talented editors and another team of people who write the examinations. And in conjunction, we would set the large pictures. Here's the scope, here's an outline of what should be in CPCU 520. And then we would collaborate with all these other people to get to the finished product.
Excellent. So I'm so happy that you are now creating content outside of the institutes, because I can't think of a better person to help us go through the exams, since you know how they think, since you were in there for so long. So for any test takers, it's a huge win to be able to access your training stuff. So tell me a little bit, and I know that you're just getting started in this new creation process, but tell me a little bit about what you're trying to fill in the market.
Sure. The CPCU, and of course any institute's course, can be a pretty big hill to climb for students. And the institutes has a really good, actually the best customer service. If you get them on the phone, I don't know of better customer service anywhere. And so people can guide students through the process. But in terms of understanding how an exam is constructed and what material to study and how to approach the material, there's some gaps. And that's just natural with any study material. And so it struck me, now that I'm a veteran, former Institute's employee, that I could take what I know about having created the content, and I could take the inside view I have about how exam questions are structured, because it's a science. The Institute takes a really scientific approach to crafting exam questions, and it's not really a secret, but it's not well known. So to the extent that I can share that with the students, I think that gives them some confidence in approaching the exam, because it's not always what you know. You may know this material pretty well. You may have prepared diligently, but you may not have the best strategy for approaching an institute's exam. So I have one product. It's a simple little thing called 3 Steps to Passing an Institute's Exam. And that is really, if you're in CPCU and you've got 6 exams down and you haven't failed one yet, you don't need this. But if you're new to it, if through your life you're a competent person but maybe not a strong test taker, or if you've taken Institute's test and haven't succeeded, then you really have to make sure that you're maximizing your process. And so that's what this is, a fairly short course, and it's really inexpensive to help people with that. My larger undertaking is, and I'm starting with CPCU and we'll see where it goes, is when I hear feedback from students who are in the CPCU program. Not everybody loves the content. I think the content's really good. Of course, I had a hand in creating it. But whether the people love the content or not, they love the practice questions. It's a really a valuable way for people to study. And what practice questions can do in a way more than just reading the content or reading your notes that you've made on the content is it's portable, and you can break it down into little time segments. So most people studying CPCU have really busy timetables. They have a job, their spouse may have a job, they may have kids or other family members they need to care for. They have a lot of responsibilities. I remember this because when I took CPCU, I'm looking for where do I have time in the day to do this? And it might be 20 minutes on the sideline during your kid's soccer game. It might be during lunchtime at the office. And wouldn't it be great, grab your phone or grab a tablet and run through some practice questions? Well, you can do that, and the Institute has a QuizMe app. But what I hear from the students over and over and over is, I want more of that, and I want them to be more rigorous. Because we also hear from students saying, wow, the real exam was so much harder than the practice questions. And so I also have some insight as to why that is. But since the Institute schooled me in the art of creating a legitimate practice question that tests you over the content, I can, in a large way, mimic exactly what the experts in the exams department at the institutes are doing. So that's what I did. And I just completed my CPCU 520 exam prep course. And every assignment, there's 10 assignments in CPCU 520. Each one starts with what I call a director's cut video. And that's where I'm giving the student the big picture. There's one on actuarial rates, rate making, and that can be really alien stuff to some students. And so before we get into the math of all this thing, I want the student to be grounded in the concepts and the terminology. So I'm going to tell you what a rate is, what an exposure is, what an exposure unit is in terms of rate making, and give you these building blocks so that when you get into the content, it all makes sense. And then for each assignment, I created a bunch of rigorous exam quality level questions. And for 520, there are 850 practice questions. And they're organized by module, by assignment. So if you take a practice test and you get a question or two wrong, you don't have to wonder, oh, what chapter was this in? How am I going to find out what the right answer is? Of course, it tells you the right answer. If there's math involved, it tells you how the right answer was calculated. But if it's just a simple multiple choice type of question, you still know, oh, it came from the 3rd module in the 4th assignment.
Excellent. So you said several things that really spoke to me. One of them is the structure of the question. I until today, I had no idea how the questions were written. But for 10 years, I've been telling people about CPCU. And what I've always said is there are multiple choice. When I did it, one of them was still short answer. The rest were multiple choice. The short answer one was so hard to prepare for. No, it wasn't a hard test. It was just harder to prepare for. The multiple choice ones, so what I always tell people is now they're all multiple choice, but they're not easy multiple choice. They are meaty multiple choice. I didn't know how in depth they went in the creation of those questions. But there's a definite style that after you take 20 some tests like I did, you recognize there's a style to how they create the questions. So getting questions from somebody trained in the science of making those questions makes so much sense to me, especially because I agree with you that there's an art to test taking. There's a science to test taking. I've always been a good test taker. And so, for example, for the SATs, I outperformed friends with much better high school grades than me because I prepared specifically for the test using the right tools. So that's kind of what you're talking about is using the right tools for the type of test that it is.
Absolutely. And if you have insight into how test questions are written, that can help you perform on the test. And it can actually hurt you if you're looking at anybody's practice questions that aren't written to the same standard, because there's some easy giveaways. If there's 3 short answers and 1 long one, you've got to really focus on that long one. It's either the correct answer or one you can throw out right away, because that's the oddball. Now, the real exam questions at the institutes, that doesn't happen. Now, you might have 2 long ones and 2 short ones, and there you still don't get a clue. But the ideal exam question, all of the possible answers will be fairly parallel. And also, ideally, and this is the hardest part of writing an exam question, is all of the wrong answers ideally are drawn from the actual content. That is hard to do, especially as the Institute's content has become more compartmentalized. In other words, 15 years ago, the content was a book, and you could draw from the book, or maybe just draw from that chapter. But now, each chapter is basically an assignment, and the assignment is going to be 4, 5, 6 modules. And it's really hard to pull meaningful number of exam questions from a 5-page module. So that is the real challenge for the exam question writer, but I've seen the experts do it enough that I know the method, and that's what I was able to replicate in my product.
Fantastic. And also, not only do you come from the institutes, which is different from all of the other third-party prep stuff out there, but you were telling me about the refund guarantee. I don't think anybody else offers that.
I'm not sure it's unique, but in any case, I'll talk about my own. That again, right now, I've got the low price 3 steps to passing an institute's exam. So that's just one little product that applies to anybody. Really good for people who don't approach a test with confidence. My CPCU 520 exam prep guide, which is just completed, if anybody buys that and does not succeed in the test, money refunded every $1. So that's how confident I am that it will help people succeed. And of course, any student or any organization who's paying for that student to succeed on this content is going to look at the charge that the institutes applies for retaking an exam and see that this exam prep is really a cheap insurance for that.
Great job bringing it back to insurance. Absolutely, I love that.
Well, we're always thinking risk management.
I'm gonna have to the next time people are asking me about how to prepare for CPCU, I'm like, go get Marty's stuff. It's insurance for your exam. If you don't pass it, he'll refund you. So now that 520 is on the shelf, and 520 is a really great test. Like it's in when I went through it, 500 was pretty easy. 520 is kind of where it starts getting interesting, and 520 covers a lot. It's kind of the big overview of the industry. Are you now working on 530 or 540 or what's next?
I think my next one is going to be 410. If you're familiar, the Institutes understands that the appreciation for risk management in general is growing. And so there's growing interest in the ARM, the Associate in Risk Management Program. And so the Institute has created a path to the CPCU by completing the ARM. But, and I may be telling a secret here, they don't want the ARM path to CPCU to be perceived as, oh, this is the easy way.
Well,
So go ahead.
I have a question. So I first heard of it from a student of the ARM path, and I looked at it and I'm like, I've never heard of that. And now, if I'm not mistaken, the ARM path doesn't have 540. Am I correct in that?
That is correct. And so clearly a lot of students are going to say, I can get CPCU without 540. I want this. But what 410 is, it's basically a mashup of selected challenging material from 520, 530, and 540. So you can reduce your 540 exposure, but you can't avoid it entirely. And of course, you need to get through the ARM program.
Okay.
So I think it's a pretty attractive option to the students, and I am targeting it because it's so brand new. The other my competitors don't have proven products. I don't know if they have products, but they certainly don't have proven products in that area. So I see it as an area of opportunity. And again, my approach is going to be very heavy on having that huge bank of practice questions that you can do in bite-sized pieces anytime, anywhere.
I love the approach. Absolutely love the approach. When I went through it 10 years ago, I was a read the book type, which many people are not. But I read the book cover to cover. But then, how do I know if I'm prepared? Well, I would take the online practice test, and towards the last couple, the app came out. The QuizMe app started, and I found it very helpful. But I agree with you that what ended up happening always, and I'm sure it has not gotten that much better, is I've taken the practice test 5 times. I'm now seeing a lot of repeat questions. Do I really, am I doing better in the practice test because I really get the material, or because I've memorized the practice questions? Right?
And yeah, I think that's an issue, and just the fact that there aren't enough of them to cover everything in the course. So if you know all those practice questions, you'll do well if those are also covered on the real exam questions. But it's sort of it's a hit and miss approach. I think it's difficult to pass the test if we're relying just on the practice questions that are available today. It's a great reinforcement if you've done it the right way and read the material and studied it in the first place.
I agree 100%. I think that and there are people who claim to pass the test with just the third-party supplements. I wouldn't attempt that. That seems crazy. And even if you pass as a CPCU, I expect you to have an actual understanding of the material, not just having passed the test once. So I think that's a risky way to do it. I recommend reading the book always. Now, people have different learning styles and stuff, but regardless of your learning style, more practice questions made by somebody who understands how the practice questions are made for the real test, that's a fantastic resource. Absolutely fantastic resource.
And anybody who wants to get a taste of what this exam prep looks like, on the site where you can find it, you can get a free sample of several of the modules, the questions for several of the modules scattered throughout the assignments, and also a couple of the director's cuts videos that provide that overview. So it's easy to get a flavor of, hey, is this the right product for me, without making any financial commitment.
I'll definitely link the website on the show notes, but what is the website?
I have the shortened version of it. I don't know if you're familiar with TinyURL. You can take any long web address and make it short. So it's TinyURL, TinyURL.com/, Insider Exam Prep, all one word.
Insider Exam Prep. Okay, perfect. And Marty, so not only you're doing the test prep, but Longhorn Knowledge Resources, your new consulting company, or what? So if I am a carrier, and I'd like to improve my training and education, and I love the idea of getting some help from somebody who spent that much time at the institutes. How can you help us?
Well, I can do that in a lot of ways, and thanks for asking. And just to explain the organizational structure, Longhorn Knowledge Resources is sort of the parent organization, and the Insider Exam Prep is my series of exam prep products under the Longhorn umbrella. But if I advertise to students at Longhorn Knowledge Resources, that doesn't say as much to them as the Insider Exam Prep. So
Absolutely.
so Longhorn Knowledge Resources for insurance and risk management organizations, a lot of them understand the value of having their students getting versed in the P&C fundamentals or some of the finer details. And one thing the Institute used to do was, for certain large insurers, would send people like me, my colleagues, on site to do either classes in a certain CPCU course, or if it was at some particular point in an exam window, to do sort of an exam prep, an exam review. So we're going to go through this course in a classroom setting and highlight what you need to know for the test. So I can do those sort of services. Certainly once we have COVID in the rear view window, it'd be a no-brainer to do those live where it's required. I think we've learned a lot over the past year of how much we can do remotely. So I can do those same sort of things for insurers. What I can also do is, I know a lot of insurers like Institute's content. They don't need everything. If you're just an auto carrier, you don't need the personal lines information for homeowners and so forth. So if they're looking for someone to supplement that, either with instructions or supplemental instructions, classroom instruction, online web classes, or selected practice questions, those are the sort of things I can put together as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me today. I, as a longtime CPCU and very big fan of the program, and the leading CPCU pusher, I'm really happy that we have another test prep option for an insider. It really makes a big difference. Somebody that actually knows how the sausage is made, so to speak.
Well, thanks for that, and this has really been terrific to come here, and thanks for the opportunity to come and talk with you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.